Hi, welcome to Chili's. This isn't a Chili's. There's no food here. There's no bloomin' onions. Is that a bloomin' onion? Is bloomin' onion a registered trademark of something incorporated? Something Incorporated would be a great business name. I don't incorporate though. If your hat is going to reset your hair, you have to make sure your hair is set so that your hat sets it correctly rather than unsets it. So I was thinking about the interface idea that I had, and the idea that you change the way that you interface directly with the software that you own, and I was thinking about Emacs. What do you think about just Emacs stuff? And the idea is always that Emacs has the kitchen sink. And it's not really, everything is included, even the kitchen sink in Emacs. And it's modal text editing and Vim's style of scripting language for navigation and stuff is objectively better than Emacs. It's in every way, okay? So Emacs does lack a good text editor, but what it is not, or what it is a window into all of these other tools and all of these other applications. Because when people ask about inputs and say, people are submitting PR requests to Microsoft on Excel saying, hey, it would be better if we could do this, feature requests. It would be better if we could do this, better if we could do that. And, Microsoft is trying to curate an experience for the user, and they're going to say, okay, this one's kind of interesting, we'll think about it. This one, no, we're not going to do that. This one would conflict with our professional services, so we're not doing that one. But when you compare that to a tool like Emacs, where they're just like, hey, what if Emacs could do this? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? They're like, but what if I could render SVGs in in a Emacs frame buffer? They're like, that's weird, but yeah, sure, why not? Let's do that. They're like, but what if I want to browse a website? They're like, well, actually, you can already do that technically. You just have to pull the information into it using pipes or other commands that you run in order to get the data into the frame buffer, and then you can, jigger the frame buffer data however you want in order to represent your HTML in a manner that is befitting of, who knows. HTML browser matching and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Oh man. HTML is just so sloppy, and like it's just kind of we'll just run it, who knows, whatever. Like does this center on the frame? Does it center on the individual frame or in the nested frame? It's like, nah, I don't know, probably the nested frame. Like, but does the original frame center on it? I don't know. Sure. And the matching for different browsers is just ridiculous at this point. Well, it's always been kind of ridiculous. Right, but the point was, people are like, hey, what if I wanted to control my music from within Emacs? And they're like, well, I mean, technically you could do that with any application that has API hooks or has like a passive, like a listener interface. So, someone will just build a front end for that. And people do. And it's code that you write in Lisp, and it's kind of fun to write, and people are just like, yeah, sure, I'll write it. Yeah, we'll add it. Who knows? Who cares? And that's what you get when that application is completely open. That's what you get when the tool is and the tool doesn't really care. When the tool just treats data as data. It's like, this is all just data. Well, I want to control my music interface from Emacs. Okay, well, we probably don't want to do like the audio codec decryption, and we're not going to be forwarding that directly to the device. But yeah, I mean, we could control it from there. It's like an open interface to everything else, and it becomes something of a meta language for interfacing with your computer. It becomes a meta window manager kind of. That's cool. There's a knitted tire cover for a spare tire on a Jeep. That's funny. So the idea is that it's like, yeah, sure. And when you do that, you get to the point where, yeah, everything is in there. People just build everything into it. Again, I still want to reiterate, the text editing kind of sucks. And it kind of sucks because you don't really have a starting point. If you just use Emacs's baked-in commands or default commands, you're just moving the cursor around and you're making some moves. You don't have something as in-depth as Vim's structure, where semi-scripting structure, where you're writing script with your keyboard to make changes to the text buffer. But all that changes with Evil. You should definitely run Evil, or something Evil-like. Well, you could probably, maybe not. I was gonna say, you could probably run Vim in Emacs. I mean, if you open a shell, that is a pretty, no, that redraw on the screen is not going to work. I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I'll check. Emacs is a good operating system, lacking only a good text editor. But you get to suck everything into Emacs, and then your question is, why would you be out of Emacs? Why would I want to be out of Emacs? I'm pulling data from this process into Emacs. Why don't I just run it in Emacs and then have the data already there? I can run transformations on that frame buffer of the data without having to pull it out of another application and then put it into this application and then run processes against it. I have old coffee. So the interesting thing is, you can, in Emacs, it's open enough that you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can drop yourself into a special mode and then absorb all of the keystrokes, all of the key input that you press. And I don't think you can do the mouse navigation, but clicks. I mean, you could probably play. Well, actually, yeah, you could code a turtle game in Emacs. Yeah. You would use a SVG live redraw, live redraw on it. And there's other things like live resizing and image manipulation that you can do. That's little more than an image being displayed in the frame buffer, and then you press a button that does a thing, and then it passes that image to ImageMagick on the back end, which processes the image and then sends results, and then it updates the frame buffer with the latest output. And as far as you, the user, are concerned, it's mostly seamless. You understand what's going on because you're using Emacs, so obviously you understand. But the point is, you get to build your own interfaces to all of these tools. Now, what would be? Oh, that's particularly interesting. I don't know about that. So I think about this, OS level automation, where you're handling the inputs for your interactions with the operating system, and it's really more about handling your interactions with the software you're working with. So I wonder about the potential for building something in Emacs that would allow you to automate, Emacs on one monitor and then the software you want to automate on the other monitor, and you build scripts that run live or build live on the Emacs that interact with the software application. And with X, I think you can do that. I have to register the application's, dimensions and everything, and the point at which its layout starts on the screen. But things like initiating a mouse click from this coordinate to that coordinate, that can all be managed with XDo tool. And why not just build an Emacs front end to something like that? Because it's that live feedback. Because the alternative is you build an XDo tool thing in a shell script, and then just think about the trial and error involved in operating a trying to create macros in a system with XDo tool without seeing the live update. Like you're kind of estimating the pixel location of where you're going to have to click. And then you save the file and then exit and then run the file and see where it clicks and go, that wasn't quite right. Let's extend it a little bit more. And then you open the file, tweak the value, save the file, run the file, see where it clicks, go, okay, that's about right, but I need to go a little higher just to get the center of the button. And then open the file, change the file, save the file. The idea that you would have an Emacs front end to something like that that's just building the macro as a series of commands, as a stream of commands, and then you edit on each step the that's cool. That is kind of cool. You edit on each step. This is the first instruction, second instruction, so change to the third instruction, and then I want you to click here, but that's too low. Let's hold J, and then that cursor moves down to update live where you're going to click, and then say start a drag, and now do a new mouse movement from here to there, and then release the drag, and then you can play it back and modify it a bit more smoothly, directly. Because that is the thing about Linux, is it's a lot of little tools, it's a lot of things that are meant to kind of work together. And it's like, well, can you do that in Linux? Well, yeah, you can. It's just kind of difficult and kind of cumbersome. And the answer to that is, why don't you build a program for it? Why don't you build an interface for it? And if you're not going to build a GUI application for it, then why not just take an existing interface that is allowed to submit to fire commands in your session, and then just have that interface control your commands. That's an interesting idea. I thought I saw this ruler. It's called the DigiRule 2 U, and it has an awesome is it Commodore or an Amiga advertising promotional video remake. It's very funny, but it's a little 8-bit processor that you have an LED readout, and you basically get some registers, and I think he wrote a short, I don't know if it's the chip itself or if he wrote some firmware for it to make his own assembly language for it, because you submit to the device a series of instructions, and it processes the instructions, and you can flip through those instructions, the instruction set, and then modify them as you choose, and then replay the program, and then save the program in a slot, load another program, modify it, save it in a different slot, all that stuff. But his newest model has a serial output, which changes the interface a lot, and it's kind of cool that you can just your computer is a terminal that connects into this ruler that has some LCD display out, but in the case of the terminal, since you have a terminal computer, you can see more output. Very interesting stuff. I'll link that in the description. That's a thing people say.